Good morning, it's April, what is it, April 16th, right, April 16th. Still snow on the ground, but quite a bit of melting happened yesterday. Heard the thump of bicycles falling off our house, and should melt a lot more today. Today is Friday, so that means I'm headed around Wascana Lake. That's going to be my tradition, and I'm hoping that it has melted off enough I can just wear shoes because I'm just wearing shoes, so. Not my winter boots. It was about -5 when I started getting ready to go out, so a little cool, but it's going to warm up quickly. And I'm sure as I walk I will be shedding my hat at least. I'm just wearing a lighter jacket. Beautiful morning though. The sun is shining, the birds are singing. It's not actually a song. The actual song is "The snow is falling, the wind is blowing," or something like that. And it's quite the opposite. Well, okay. There's still some ice here and there, but I should be able to finesse it with my shoes. It'll be a day I get to focus on writing, and I also have to do some work on the with the mentor that I'm mintying. No, the mentee that I'm mentoring, the other way around. Look at a chunk of her material today and give her my thoughts. That's through the Saskatchewan Writers Guild. They were supposed to announce the Saskatchewan Book Awards nominees yesterday, but there was, for whatever reason, there was a delay. They had technical problems in their stream. I don't think I'm nominated this year. Normally you're given a heads up if you're going to be nominated, shortlisted, and I have not been given a heads up, so my assumption is that the Moonlit World was not shortlisted. And there was the only other thing I had, which was been the anthology in the publishing category. I thought that was a bit of a long shot. Those tend to be, books with more graphic elements than the anthology had. It always depends on who the judges are. And they're different every year, so you never know. Moonlit Master of the World Book 2 was shortlisted, and so was World Shaper, I think. I haven't won one since Spirit Singer many years ago now, 2002, I guess. I won Saskatchewan Book Award. But I've been shortlisted, so many times. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. I was always surprised that the Shards of Excalibur books never got a sniff in the young adult categories. They were a little weird because they came out 2 a year. That may have worked against me, I don't know. I didn't really enter them myself. That would have been through Kato Books. So. But City Born was shortlisted, and Masks was shortlisted, and Magebane, and some nonfiction I've written has been shortlisted over the years. And Spirit Singer won the Regina Book Award in 2002. Not going through the underpass, still blocked off. If you see this and you're watching live and you want to leave a comment, that'd be great. While I'm walking into the sun, I may not see it. Which will be for the first part of this. There's kind of a haze hanging over everything. I don't know if you can see it in the camera or not. It's a bit of a haze. towards the legislature there. Looking towards High Speaker's Corner across there. I've talked about before. Just waiting for my light to change. They give a pretty long delay, I think because Albert is so busy. They don't want to close it very often this time of day. Already warm. I'm taking off my hat shortly. Oh, it's a long wait. Must have hit it just wrong. Oh, I think I can take the chance now, even though it hasn't actually changed. There, it changed. Usually does that. If you decide to go ahead and take the chance, about halfway across it'll change. Oh, there, I can see something. There's Roger. Hi, Roger. Oh no, my directions are all off here. I mean, my aiming is not good. That looks better. There's some ice along here. Oh, there's fog on the rising off of the lake. That's where some of that haze is coming from. So that'll be kind of a cool effect here as we get down to the water. Oh, hey, hi, James. Wow. 2 people at once. It's a positive rush. Trying to get that more or less where I want it. So yeah, see the haze on the river, on the lake. The ledge over there. But I think I'll be safe with my shoes on the pathway here. Now I'm blind to any further comments for a little bit. The sun in my eyes. Last time I did this, just a week ago, there was still quite a bit of ice floating. Don't see any now. Well, there might be a slight skin. Yeah, I guess there is a slight skin of ice on it because of it being below freezing the last few days. So I take that back. It actually has ice on it again. So it's hard to tell. But if you look at the way that glitters, that's definitely ice. Also, there seems to be birds standing on the water, which is a pretty good sign that it's not water. Unless they're Jesus birds, but those are rare. Makes the lake look bigger when there's fog because you can't see to the far side over there. So it could be like the mouth of a bay on the ocean or Great Lakes or something. It's not. But it was kind of a foggy day, foggier than this. Walking around the lake that inspired a little bit Shards of Excalibur, because I looked at that and it looked kind of magical. That got me thinking about what could be in the lake that would be magical. And I, being a bit of an Arthurian buff, thought of the Lady of the Lake. And that gave me a 5-book series eventually. A lot of birds calling somewhere over there. Across at the ledge in the fog. Have to keep some eye out. There will be some ice, it looks like, if I'm not careful. Well, even if I am careful, there could be some ice. Try not to slip on it. Oh, wait for James. How fresh is that snow? Edmonton had a dump a few days ago, but it's gone now. It's about, well, there's fresh snow. Even yesterday there was a skiff of fresh snow. And then it snowed the day before that. I guess it was Sunday night into Monday that it really came in. I think it was, we had some snow Sunday night into Monday, then a second system came in and gave us even more snow going into Tuesday. Hi. See? Could be the mouth of the bay leading out to the Pacific Ocean, somewhere in BC. But it's not. So looking straight ahead of us there is Willow Island, and as I mentioned, every time I walk around this lake, because I don't know who has heard me before, but in the aforementioned Shards of Excalibur books, first of all, the lady of the lake shows up between Willow Island and the mainland over here. Good morning, ducks. But at the end of the series, Excalibur, which has been reforged, spoiler, is thrown into Wascana Lake, and it is just this side of Willow Island, so sort of right where I'm pointing right now. Excalibur's down at the bottom of the lake, so bring your scuba gear, not scuba deer. That's a whole picture book right there about a scuba diving deer, scuba deer. Probably not a very good one, but it would work as a title. I often do a shortcut there, but it's too much snow. I'm sticking to the path today. Can't tell if my horizon is level or not. I figured out a good way to keep it that way. But, hey, I can see the screen again in the shade. For some reason, my right arm's already getting sore. It usually doesn't bother me carrying the gimbal. I may have to switch hands before long. A sign telling you to walk one way. Again, I think that's silly. Possibly even counterproductive. Seems to me if you're following somebody with a plume of their breath coming out, you're coming up behind them, slowly catching them up, surely that's a bigger risk than passing somebody going the other way, whom you're by in a second. If there's any risk to speak of outdoors, which there isn't. But ours is not to reason why. Ours is but to obey the government and die. There's the location of Excalibur. And the sound of all that noise. Be back to the Tangled Stars when I get back. I mentioned that's the new book for Daw. I started at the beginning and I'm rereading it to try to cement some things in my head before I carry on from where I left off about 70,000 words in. And I enjoyed the first chapter when I reread it, so there's that. And the second chapter too, so. I renamed my cat. Not my cat, but the one in the story. There's a cybernetically enhanced, also genetically enhanced cat named, well, he was named Beagle. And the reason he was named Beagle is because I thought that was one of the names of the two cats that pull Freya's chariot in Norse mythology. Turns out they were never named in Norse mythology, and Beagle, it's actually a name assigned to one of them by an author, I think a fantasy author. And I don't want to do that. So I went looking. Not a lot of great mythological cat names, but I'm calling him Tybalt, as in Romeo and Juliet's Tybalt, because that was a version of Tybert, who is a cat in a medieval French folktale called Reynard the Fox, or a collection of folktales. There's Willow Island. So Lady of the Lake shows up in the water between here and there. My character sees this staircase leading down into the water and goes down into it, is followed by Wally Knight, who's a slightly younger boy who happens to be cycling around the lake at that time. He sees this, follows her down in there, and the two of them are then tasked with finding the scattered shards of Excalibur around the world before Merlin can. He's the bad guy in my book, and he's in his modern day guise is as Rex Major, who's a kind of a Bill Gates, Steve Jobs computer magnate, heads Excalibur Computer Systems. He has his magic out through the internet, so they can't use it much, which adds a nice element of, that's why we can't use cell phones, which is always useful when you're trying to tell an adventure story these days. Think how much of Buffy wouldn't work if they had just been able to text each other. And over the course of the 5 books, they travel all over the world looking for the 5 shards of Excalibur. And, you know, spoiler, at the end, all 5 have been found and the sword reforged. And they toss it into Wascana Lake over there to keep it safe. Hi, Terry. It is a beautiful day. I like the little bit of fog hanging over the lake. Makes it mysterious. It melted a lot yesterday afternoon. I'm sure it'll melt even more this afternoon, but it's still below freezing right now. You see the fog out there again. A little more Willow Island. This end of it. I've never been on Willow Island. You can picnic on it, but I've never been over there. Oh, and I confused the gimbal again. Thinks I want to point off in that direction. Let's see if it corrects itself when I go straight. I guess it sort of does. I probably play with the joystick too much, trying to even it out. I should just turn my hand differently. I like doing this on a weekday morning. There's fewer people on the path. So Fridays have become my day for walking around the lake, I think. That's my plan anyway. I've done it twice now, so that makes it a tradition. Can't even see the ledge over there in the fog. There's the bridge over across the lake. So actually there's more ice than I thought there was, but there's also open water, as you can see from the ducks down there. So the ice would be very thin that just formed in the last couple of days. It'll be gone again probably this afternoon if it warms up like it probably will this weekend. And of course, there's always geese. I guess the gimbal. See, it's weird because I'm not using, it's not the gimbal that obviously controls what you're pointing at. I mean, it is with the controls, but there are follow, in the app that comes with the gimbal, there's follow options, you know, for doing sports and stuff. But I don't know that there is on the app I'm doing the live stream from, which is called Prism. And yet whenever I point at something, it seems to want to follow it, so maybe there is. A little bit of ice there. I'll stay up here this time. I went down there last time. But I don't know what the ice and possibly mud situation is down there. Someone who doesn't believe in headphones. Playing their music out loud as they walk. It's like a boombox, I guess, which I always find annoying. I don't know why the music that's so often shared, that was fine, I didn't have a problem with that, but so often the music that is shared by the people with the really big speakers is awful music. Why is it always awful music? I drive around blasting show tunes, that's what I do. Little Sondheim at full volume, that's what we need. Going up and down the streets of Regina. You could go out on the outlook, but not much to outlook at. You can barely see the ledge down there across the lake. Just stick to walking today, mostly. There's lots of birds to hear. Mostly geese, but not just geese. And it's still pointing off kind of to the side. Nobody said hi from YouTube yet this morning. If you're on YouTube, say hi. This is the Marina. Well, Bar Willow is the name of the restaurant that's in there. That's the Marina. There's the canoers have a shed over there that they keep their equipment in. And the actual piers, I guess you'd call them, are down in the lake, obviously. Funny that. I'll take my hat off. It's getting sweaty. I'll always keep viewers surprised of what I take off. But there is a limit. Unlike the Member of Parliament who managed to appear in the Altogether. The MP's in the Altogether, the Altogether, the Altogether. It's Altogether, the very last the MP ever wore in the virtual House of Commons. So, you know, that may be a first for the parliamentary system. Pretty over there, looking towards the piers, more fog on the lake. Well, piers is the right word. Jetties, maybe? Broad Street Bridge up here. And then out at the lake, I always point out that sort of abutment over there has a waterfall on it in the once things are up to spring, full spring, part of the aeration system for the lake so that fish have oxygen. There's not a lot of current in the lake. The water comes in, I guess, at this end. And the dam is on the Albert Street Bridge. And that's what formed Wascana Lake. Somebody asked me on one of these walks, or said that it was really nice to see so much unspoiled natural environment, and I had to explain that there's not a single natural thing here. The trees were planted by people, the lake was made by people, then deepened by people. There's the Broad Street Bridge. So every single thing here is actually man-made, or at least man-facilitated, I guess. I mean, people didn't make the trees or the animals, but they created the environment by making the lake and planting the trees around it. Oh, prairies. You drive out in the country, you're not seeing a single natural thing hardly, except for whatever birds there might be. Maybe some weeds in the ditches, but southern Saskatchewan landscape is one of the most artificial landscapes in the world because it's all been cultivated. And the trees have usually been planted as windbreaks that you see. So it's something interesting to think about. There we get a view back down the long length of the lake. Fog might be lifting a little bit. Not too much. It's deceptive. It looks like you can see a long way, and then you realize that you can't see the legislative building, which is a fairly large object. Oh. Geese having conversations and disputes up here. Sure, it's mating season because there'll be baby geese before too long, and then teenage geese. This is the bird part of the birds and the bees. Right out in the open. Hello, geese. Oh, there was another note which I hadn't seen till now and can't quite see it now. Now I have the sun behind me, which doesn't actually help in the seeing anything. This is maybe the most picturesque video I've done. But between the fog and the snow, it is interesting. Still doing this in the fall, which I expect to be. There'll be some really pretty days then. Got the blue sky, you got the fog, you got the little bit of snow. This kind of patchy snow for some reason makes me think of the mountains in spring. I don't know. Not that I spend a lot of time in the mountains, but the terrain doesn't make me think of the mountains, though. No, we've seen lots of geese. There's some ducks down there. And on that little platform, which I don't know the purpose of. I don't know if the path would be clear all the way around Pine Island. Under the overhang, it might still have snow and ice on it, so I don't think I'll go over there yet, but I'll go over there one of these walks. But that's Pine Island or Spruce Island? I think it's Pine Island. I keep calling it that anyway. Bridge over it. And there's a building over there that they use when they have boat races. Birds, ducks, and geese. It's an ecumenical. And pigeons. There's a pigeon there. Geese, ducks, and of course gulls over there too. That's about the limit of my bird knowledge. If I see anything more exotic than that, I'm not sure I can help. Oh, and there goes the gimbal. Has decided I want to look over that way. No, I want to look over this way. Will it adjust on its own? Apparently not. And again, looking that way, down to the other side of the... Yeah, now it's pointing at the sky. There you go. City's over there somewhere. You can sort of see the Legislative Dome there. Well, that's what I'm seeing. I noticed when I watched a little bit of yesterday's walk that the colors were more vibrant on the TV than they actually were to my eyes, which is interesting. It's like there was a little extra saturation going on. Guess I'll stop pointing the camera at geese and it won't get confused about which direction I want it to face. Don't have much to say, just letting the geese have their say back there in the distance. I just keep walking. These shoes were made for walking. That's just what they'll do. One of these days, these shoes are gonna walk on all of YouTube. Okay, maybe not. Walk all over YouTube. Doesn't quite work. I thought it would when I started that, but it didn't quite work when I got to the end of it. It's not like I rehearsed these, people. Over there is the Wascana Rehab Center. Some nice paths on that side that I walked along once and will do again. There are signs of budding out in some of these bushes. You can sort of see that the buds are getting bigger and hints of green here and there. I mentioned, as I often do, yesterday I mentioned a walking commuter who walks around Manhattan like this. And he often goes through Central Park, and last walk of his I watched a couple of days ago. Oh, beautiful. Flowers blooming, tulips up, bushes blooming, trees turning green. Although even he said, we're not entirely safe from snow in New York in April. And we certainly aren't here in Saskatchewan, as we've proved now 3 times this month. When the snow was all gone, and then it snowed, then the snow was all gone, and then it snowed, and the snow was all gone, and then it snowed. We're working on it being all gone again here. I usually see somebody on the paths. It's been almost nobody. In fact, I don't think there's been anybody on the path. There are a couple of people going the other way on the road back there. I saw some people getting ready to go from one of the parking lots, but otherwise I've had it to myself this morning. Except for those of you watching with me. Oh, we'll take a little turn onto the observation deck here. Again, to a panorama. This is Spruce Island over here. So, right there. Spruce Island, which is undeveloped. It's just brush. And off in the distance, you can see the city. And the ledge is kind of behind these tree branches here. And you can see they're starting to look green. And there you go. Wascana Lake on an April morning. Mid-April. May is in sight. My daughter's doing her finals, exams for University of Toronto. Looking forward to being back in person in the fall, which is the expectation. Beeping sound is not a bird. Or maybe it's, it'd have some exotic Latin name like Garbage Truckus reversus. Well, it's certainly ice over here because the birds are standing on the water again. Some places they're in it, some places they're standing on it. So I guess we got more of a skin of ice from the cold weather the last few days than I expected. The water's still very cold, of course. It hasn't warmed up much. Slow to change temperature. Big mass of water. Nobody in sight down this long stretch of the path either. Interesting. But that's preferable from my point of view because I don't like to point this camera right at people. Although with everybody walking one way, I guess that's one advantage. I'm not shining it in their faces, pointing it in their faces. I do get looks. Usually nobody asks me what I'm doing. I just say hi to people I pass. Don't explain. Letting the birds have their say. Squirrel! 2 squirrels. Somebody else interested in a little mating action, I think. Or fighting off somebody else, I can't tell. There he is in the snow over here. There's the lake again. I always love these signs this time of year. Danger, thin ice. Yeah, I'd say so. Had to look back before we keep going on. Jogger coming up behind me, I think. Here's the city now. Downtown. Mighty skyline of Regina. If anybody happens to be on YouTube, drop me a note so I know you're there. I can always tell afterwards. The analytics will show you when people started watching the live stream and when they left, and how many you had total and concurrently. Believe me, it's not many for me. But as I keep saying, this is for my benefit and whatever enjoyment other people might get out of it. Another view over there. Regina on an April morning. There's a little memorial or monument I just went by to United Empire Loyalists. I never think of that one to look at because having been born in the States and still being a dual citizen, if you're an American, the United Empire Loyalists were like traitors. And of course, if you're Canadian or British, they were the good guys. So I've never really looked at that to see what it says exactly. I can remember. I must have sometime. It's not like the United Empire Loyalists came to Saskatchewan in 1776. Bird sounds fading because we're further from where the conglomeration was back there on the ice and water. They seemed to all be around Willow Island this morning, quite a lot of them. Of course, coming up to right directly in front of the legislative building. So the center should be right where the Walter Scott statue is standing right in front. So that should be the exact center there. Of course, that'll be a beautiful garden. Fairly short order. Fairly short. Not tomorrow. Here they come again. Right over my head. One always worries a little when a goose flies over one's head, considering what goose leave behind in the grass all around Wascana Lake. On the other hand, perhaps they only release that material while on the ground. I don't know if, like some birds, they poop in mid-flight or only when on the ground. Something I could look up. I'm not really looking forward to Googling it though, so maybe I won't. Oh, maybe I will. Now that I've thought about it, I pretty much have to. Albert Street Bridge. So we've just about completed our circuit of the lake. Nobody ever passed me, did they? I heard somebody behind me, but they must have taken a different route. So again, I've pretty much been alone. I now see 2 people way up there ahead of me. I also see my horizon's a little off. Oh. I try to adjust it sometimes. I can't tell if it works or not. And it's only at times that it really, you notice it, like when you've got a really flat horizon like now, it seems to be perhaps a little. Although on the other hand, the land does slope up to the left, so maybe that's an optical illusion too. Anyway, it is what it is. I am what I am. Bonus points if you recognize that musical theater reference from the Cage aux Folles. Oops, gave it away. So over here is the actual dam that forms Wascana Lake under the bridge. There's the spillway. You can probably hear the water, but from this perspective, it just disappears over the edge. And one more look back at Wascana Lake before I go back under the bridge. So we'll do another panorama here. The little bit of fog has lifted quite a bit. There you go. Wascana Lake with a slightly out of kilter horizon, I think. And it's back to that very long crosswalk light. And home. Home is where the hearth is. And the heart. And the cat. And my wife. And my daughter. And the novel I'm working on. Home is where your novel is. Lesser known version of that saying. Back to Speaker's Corner here. Oop. Missed a step. So one hazard of this thing is looking at the screen and not looking down when you need to. I thought it was an unbroken series of steps and there was the landing in the middle, so I tried to take a step that wasn't there. Yesterday up on the stair, I met a step that wasn't there. It wasn't there again today. Woohoo! How long do I have to wait this time? Looking north up Albert Street. Looking south down the Albert Street Bridge. And my light has changed. since I was talking about Shards of Excalibur at the beginning of the walk, I always like to mention as I go down here past Harrington Mews over here, this little cul-de-sac, that it's down at the end of that I established that Wally Knight lives, the boy of the two protagonists. Not in any of those houses, but in a location of one of those houses. He has a swimming pool, which none of those do. It's very important to the plot because Ariane, the main character, who has the power of the Lady of the Lake, can transport herself and anything she's carrying, including him, through water. But she has to have enough water to rematerialize in, enough water that the amount of water her body displaces. So she has to be submerged, in other words, to rematerialize. So swimming pools become very important as a means of transportation. And yes, established very early on that clothes go with them, because there's this werewolf problem where when you have werewolves, half your characters are naked half the time. Certainly in the Moonlit World, my most recent book, there's a lot of naked people for that very reason. I don't know why a book where you want them to be able to transport themselves somewhere and then have adventures, you can't have them popping into swimming pools naked and then trying to find clothes and all of that. So I established very early on that anything that's on her person comes with her. Maybe that MP is a werewolf. Anybody think of that? Maybe he had just changed. He says he was changing from his jogging clothes, but maybe he changed from being a wolf. The people have a right to know. Actually, the name of another of my books, Right to Know. The main character is kind of a journalist, but not really. More of a mouthpiece, propagandist. But the concept of the right to know does drive the story as to whether you should tell people the truth, no matter how they might react to it. Which is, a tough question, one we're certainly dealing with now. I'm a free speech absolutist. I think you should be able to say anything without fear for your job, or, well, that's not, it's complicated, but basically I think free speech trumps pretty much anything else, and we're losing it, in my opinion. But not right to know is kind of some of those concepts all set into the far future on a generation starship. Check it out, Shadowpaw Press, shadowpawpress.com. There's a sequel, Falcon's Egg. Both available as $3.99 ebooks and in print. Okay. Coming from the wrong direction to do my usual stop in front of the stop sign on the corner. So we will stop here. So thank you very much for watching, whether you watch live or on the replay, and I'll be back tomorrow.